In a cozy little workshop lived a kind old woodcarver named Geppetto. His house was filled with ticking cuckoo clocks and charming wooden toys, but Geppetto was lonely. One starry night, he finished carving his finest creation yet. A little wooden puppet with a pointed nose and a cheerful smile. "I'll call you Pinocchio," he said fondly. "Oh, how I wish you were a real boy." As Geppetto slept, a shimmering light filled the room. The blue fairy appeared, her gown sparkling like 1,000 stars. She tapped Pinocchio with her magic wand. "Little wooden boy," she whispered, "I will give you the gift of life. But to become a real boy, you must prove yourself brave, truthful, and unselfish." Suddenly, Pinocchio's wooden limbs moved. He blinked his painted eyes and sat up. He was alive! The blue fairy then turned to a wise old cricket who had been watching from the hearth. "Jiminy Cricket," she said, "you shall be Pinocchio's conscience, to help him choose right from wrong." Jiminy puffed out his chest, proud of his new, very important job. The next morning, Geppetto was overjoyed. He danced around the room with Pinocchio, laughing with delight. "You're my son!" he cried. He sold his only coat to buy Pinocchio a schoolbook and sent him off to get an education, just like a real boy. "Be a good boy, Pinocchio," Geppetto called from the doorway, "and come straight home." Pinocchio promised he would. With Jiminy Cricket perched on his shoulder, he skipped down the cobblestone street. But along the way, he met a cunning fox named Honest John and his bumbling cat companion, Gideon. "School?" scoffed Honest John. "Why waste your time with books? We know a much better path, the easy road to success, the life of an actor." He painted a grand picture of fame and fortune on the stage. Pinocchio, forgetting his promise to Geppetto and Jiminy's frantic warnings, was completely mesmerized. "An actor? That sounds wonderful!" he exclaimed. Honest John sold him to a cruel puppeteer named Stromboli for a few coins. That night, Pinocchio was a star of the show. He danced and sang, and the audience roared with applause. He was thrilled, but when the show was over, Stromboli didn't take him home. Instead, he locked Pinocchio in a birdcage. "You're my little wooden gold mine," the puppeteer cackled, counting his money. "You'll make me rich." Pinocchio cried for help. Suddenly, the blue fairy appeared. "Why weren't you at school, Pinocchio?" she asked gently. Ashamed, Pinocchio tried to lie. Some big monsters grabbed me," and, as he spoke, his nose began to grow longer and longer, sprouting leaves and even a bird's nest at the end. The blue fairy sighed. "A lie will keep growing until it's as plain as a nose on your face." Pinocchio sobbed, ashamed of his lie. Seeing his remorse, the blue fairy freed him from the cage and returned his nose to normal. "This is the last time I can help you," she warned. "Remember, a boy who won't be good might as well be made of wood." Pinocchio and Jiminy rushed out, determined to go straight home. But on the way, they once again ran into Honest John and Gideon. This time, they told Pinocchio about a magical place called Pleasure Island, a land with no school and no rules, where boys could do whatever they wanted, all day long. Despite Jiminy's protests, Pinocchio couldn't resist. He boarded a coach with other rowdy boys and headed for the island. It was a chaotic paradise of candy, games, and mischief. Pinocchio had a grand time until he noticed something strange. The boys who had been there the longest were turning into donkeys. Terrified, he saw he had grown long, fuzzy donkey ears and a tail. It was a curse. The island's wicked coachman was turning boys into donkeys to sell them to the salt mines. With Jiminy's help, Pinocchio escaped just in time, jumping off a cliff and into the sea. He swam and swam, finally reaching the shore near his village. He ran home, calling for his father, but the workshop was empty. A letter from the Blue Fairy floated down, explaining that Geppetto, searching for Pinocchio, had been swallowed by a monstrous whale named Monstro. "I have to save him," Pinocchio declared, his wooden heart filled with a courage he'd never felt before. He tied a rock to his donkey tail and dove deep into the ocean. He searched everywhere until he, too, was swallowed by the giant whale. Inside Monstro's belly, he saw a faint light. There, on a small raft, was Geppetto. They were overjoyed to be reunited, but trapped. Pinocchio had an idea. "Father, we'll build a big fire," he said. "The smoke will make Monstro sneeze." They gathered wood from wrecked ships and lit a huge bonfire. The whale's belly filled with thick, black smoke. Monstro let out a tremendous, world-shaking sneeze that shot them and their raft out of his mouth and into the raging sea. The waves crashed around them. Geppetto was weak and couldn't hold on. "Save yourself, son," he cried. But Pinocchio refused to leave him. With all his might, he pushed the raft, with Geppetto on it, toward the shore. He used his last ounce of strength to get his father to safety before being pulled under by the powerful waves. When Geppetto awoke on the beach, he found Pinocchio's lifeless wooden body washed up beside him. He carried him home and laid him on his bed, his heart broken. Jiminy Cricket wept beside him. But then, the room began to glow with a familiar blue light. The Blue Fairy appeared, smiling warmly. "You have proven yourself brave, truthful, and unselfish," she said. "And now, you shall have your reward." She touched Pinocchio with her wand. A magical light surrounded him. His wooden limbs turned to flesh. His painted face became real. He opened his eyes, and they were the eyes of a real boy. "Father!" he cried, jumping into Geppetto's arms. They hugged, laughed, and danced, their hearts full of joy. Jiminy Cricket received a solid gold badge that read Official Conscience, and they all lived happily ever after. Thank you so much for watching our story today. If you enjoyed it, please give us a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and don't forget to subscribe for more classic tales. See you next time.